broadcasting to you from a little grass shack in the middle of the Pacific.
Live in the place to be.
Well, they're actually in the Bay Area.
Yeah,
but they are the premier Faika show that shines a spotlight on positive Pacific Islanders.
You listening to the sound.
Role models coming brown every Thursday night at 6.
East to west, we getting hurt.
Brought to you by Faika by Design. It's the iconic Faika podcast with your hosts, Naki and Carl.
Here we go.
Here we go.
We are in July, and it is smoking hot. Smoking hot. It's
hot as fire.
It's over 110, like 5 of the next 7 days here in Sacramento. What's it like in Sassoon? Same thing, hot, right?
It's hell. There you go.
And every year it's hot, and every year I complain. It's the same thing. But it doesn't matter if it's 110. I'm going to complain. It doesn't matter what year it is.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. So we are season 8, episode 21. Today we're going to review an event that we attended at SCDC. We are going to do our community announcements, and then our very own Leah Poasa, the Fa'aleava, the new just become newly mother, had done a survey prior to her having the baby, and we're going to share the results of that and kind of walk through some of the results. I think there's some telling things in there for us to learn from a stop the hate perspective. Then I think you've got a video that you did with the show, friend of the show, Neo Ve'evea, and we've got our check-ins. That's the show today. Naki, what's up?
Well, we had a heat wave. Well, we're in the middle of a heat wave. And we had, I feel like there was tons of things going on this week, but one of the main things that we did was at SCDC last week with Malo, Malo Ala Ilima, right? Did I get that right?
That right? You got that right.
It was Fa'asoa Lau Malu, Fa'asoa Fa'atane, with some amazing people like Kazani, Angel, Malo, and Mayana, Alexander. They're all from the Bay Area, and representing Malo's new nonprofit organization, Pacifica Trans Men Network. So it was a huge event. Tons of people were there for Thursday evening. That's why you didn't see
Thursday at 7.
7 p.m.
I was concerned. I was like, 7's late. I don't know. It didn't matter. The community showed up. The topic hits home.
Right.
A lot of people there, and I did say that at one point in the meeting, in the presentation. I was very encouraged by not only them getting up there to share their experience, but how well they were received by the community. There were family members standing up, telling them how proud they were of them, and kind of talking about how difficult it can be trying to support. Right? How do you show up in that whole that dynamic? So I was proud of the community for being there late up there in Sunnydale on a Thursday night.
Yeah, and we recorded that in that forum, which was hosted by SCDC. Danny Boy Vetvalu, who hosted at SCDC. It was also sponsored by Incapia, PTMN, SCDC, Big Purr. So it was like a really well put together event that we went to. And so you did all the technical stuff, and I kicked back to watch the whole thing.
We got there early, and it's something that PBD we're really focusing on, is event presence. So we got there early. I set up all the audio. First time that I'd done that from that perspective. It was really like trying to set up a studio on site. But yeah, it was good to be involved from from that perspective, and just like I said, inspiring to see the way that the community responded.
Right. And then also last Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, all my Usos was fighting for San Francisco. The city of San Francisco, DPH, cut their funding, their soda tax funding. And the mayor has cut funding, or the city has cut funding across everything, you know, DCYF, DPH, soda tax, HRC, like everything, which is inspiring to see the community come together and go to City Hall to fight for their funding, to the supervisors of San Francisco. And so Cree and her whole team, SEDC, Big Purr, Danny Boy was there representing Big Purr. And then Tuesday again, they went, it was specifically for DPH, for All My Usos and Fatasi, and to go there and again fight for their funding. And then Wednesday, the supervisors had voted on the new budget, and they restored all my Uso Fatasi funding, their sugar tax funding. So big kudos to all my Usos, Fatasi, SEDC for going in there and fighting for funding that is needed for the Pacifica community. They cut funding in Sunnydale, Visitation Valley, Hunters Point, like I feel like the main
the communities that need it the most.
Yeah. Exactly. And then they also cut, like I was listening online to the people that they cut public defender's office. Like, I mean, their caseload is like crazy packed, right? But without this other funding, like the funding that they cut, I feel like they would need to give more money to the public defender's office, only because they cut all this funding, and those fundings are helping the kids stay off the street, keep them busy, give them resources outside of the norm, like photography and videography classes that they wouldn't normally have. Famalosi, which is All My Usos programming that takes them to the zoo for free. They go to movies for free and get, snacks and popcorn. Like sometimes some people can't afford that. And so, and it helps to
when you go to the movies, you cannot not have popcorn, right, Nike?
Right. No, I get a little popcorn with my butter. I've
probably been to 50 movies with Naki, maybe more. Never ever, when we had left from places where we went to eat and went straight to a theater, Naki got to have her popcorn. So I know that kids being able to have the popcorn, and that's a piece of the experience. But shout out
to go with your whole family. Like sometimes you can afford to have one kid or two kids, but the whole family is able to go to the movies, able to go bowling, able to do all these family events that normally you can't afford, or you don't have the resources to go, right? And so all of this, I say, because of these programs that are helping families, it also just gives the kids, keeps them busy, right? Keeps the family busy. So that I was thinking, man, you cut the public defenders money, and then you cut all these programs, like they're gonna be busy.
Right.
So
I think one of the takeaways that I had from, because you and I were talking as it was going down, and we were kind of watching specifically, Cree, because we're so close to Amu, and seeing going down the list of like, this needs to be done in order for us to have our voice. We need to do this. And so they were going through all the different things that they control, right? Not the things like, it's easy to complain, it's easy to get on social media and just complain about something, but you can see she was very methodical about what she was doing and all the boxes she was checking and to make sure that people were showing up. And she made a difference. When I'll be honest, as they were doing that, I was like, I don't know if that's gonna like, what are they gonna do? And what we saw was some of the organizations didn't show up the same way, and they
Mm-hmm.
got their funding restored. So
Right.
Cree in her "Never Say Die, I Can Do It No Matter What I Believe" was inspiring to watch her, but it's also, I gotta say, I gotta give a kudos to the funders, right? It would have been very easy for them to just say, "Nope, no
Yeah.
money's coming back. If the cuts are the cuts,
Right.
and the budgets, and that's just the way it's going to be." So, to the city government for making the decisions to restore some of the funding. Didn't
Mm-hmm.
restore all of it, but I think that just shows that your voice does matter. If you look at what Korea's done, and the All My Usos organizations, speaking up, finding the right space, showing up. The line was long that day to speak, and the Pacific Islanders, we make up
Waited.
0.6% of the population. They made up like a third of the people that were speaking that day. So
Yes. So the event started at 9 a.m. and then they didn't speak until like 3, 4 o'clock, 2, 3, 4 o'clock. So they're at City Hall all day. They've all
and a huge group of
yeah.
not 5 or 6 people. There's a
No,
huge group
it
of
was
people
a
that are there
huge
all day.
yeah, the whole community, like the PI community showed up and they were there all day. And some of these people have regular 9 to 5s outside of their community work. So they had to call in sick or, just use a vacation day to fight for this money. So they made it known that taking this funding away is making it seem like you don't care about our community, so it was awesome to see. So I love that they got their funding back. I feel bad for the people that didn't get their funding back because everybody is helping somebody. Everybody is helping people. It's just, it's sad that these cuts happened. So,
Yeah, the thing that I don't know is it's taxpayer dollars, right?
right,
We don't earn as much as other groups, right?
right,
Our average income is lower than the average, and it's one of the lowest in the city. Are the poverty levels, the need for those tax dollars is more pronounced in our community. Our people need that money more than other communities, and not to say we're going to scratch and fight and claw against other communities, but we're going to advocate for ourselves and advocate for our own resources.
but
So
why? What? That's my question. Why do we have to fight? And you know what I mean? Why do we have to fight for funding that is going to help our community? Like you approved it, right? And then you took it away, and then we have to go fight for it and then get it back. Like
right.
I'll never understand the whole system, you know what I mean? But I feel like we have to do so much just to prove that we need it. So it just, but kudos to all my Usos, Fatasi, SCDC, like the whole everyone that
It
got
does.
some of their funding
It
restored.
does. It is a little confusing as to, you know, if you just look at the outcomes, there's the proof that we need the support, right?
Hmm.
Health outcomes, education outcomes, any of that. Just throw the data out there, which we're going to talk about some data later tonight.
Right,
But the data is out there to show that the outcomes are there. We're a community that needs support.
right. So it was awesome to see the community come together and fight for the funding that is truly needed. So that was that. That
Great
was
job to
great
all the
job.
organizations, but
Right.
especially Cree and her team. And that's a never say die, never quit
Never,
team
like,
right there.
they never say die, and I love their spirit. So yeah.
You can tell them they'll bug you till you say yes, and then even when you say no, they don't take no for an answer.
Yeah, they pretty much don't say no. But if you're doing this community work, right, that's all you ever hear is no. So we
Right.
keep fighting until we get a yes. I think that's the hard part about community work is that I'm finding that you have to apply for this funding and then it's never guaranteed because it always says in those small letters like this could be stopped at any time and blah 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 blah. And so,
Well, that's what makes part of what makes community work hard. I was on the
right,
phone for quite a long time with Dr. Nia Itaoto today, and one of the things we were talking about was how it's hard to keep high quality people in community work,
right,
because if you've got a degree and you've got the experience, man, it's got to be in your heart to stay in community work, because a lot of it is supported by funding. And
right,
you don't know, it's one thing if you're single and you
right,
don't have kids, you don't have a mortgage, you don't have
right,
those responsibilities. Hey, if the funding goes away next year, I'll just hustle and find another job.
right,
But once you get into, our age, 10 years, 20 years younger than our age, you know what I mean? Where you've got those responsibilities, it's tough to stay in community work,
right,
because you don't know is there stability there, as opposed to work for the state, work for, some traditional work that, hey, I've got to like do something really bad to get fired, or
right,
whole company's got to go under. It's not the way it is with community work. People
right.
leave because it's not stable.
True, true. No, that's 100%, 100%. And it's sad that it's not, it's work that's needed.
It's
So
hard work. Even when you're
hard
getting
work. There
paid,
you
it's still hard work, because you don't know when the funder's just going to say, "Hey, I know we said 3 years, it's now 1 year,"
go. Right.
or it's going
Yeah.
away tomorrow. Like all that kind of stuff weighs heavily on you.
And community work is it never stops. There's not a clock. You don't
Right.
punch out at any time. It's consistent. It's like 24/7 really. Um,
Work's never done.
and weekends, and you work on weekends and you work. So so big shout out to the community leaders that fight for their funding. So that was this weekend. It was very inspiring to see our community come together and fight for the funding and then actually get it restored. So I love that. And then also on a happier note, our Giants beat the Dodgers.
Oh,
Dodgers. That whole series was, and I watched the game yesterday in its entirety. I didn't. It had been a minute, but I don't know any of the freaking players. I was like, I don't know. Okay, now I know Bevins was the pitcher. He did a really kick-ass job yesterday. He was striking out like the big hitters on the Dodgers. I can't even
ooh,
remember his
Otani
name.
had a bad series
Yes, yes. He struck him out. Like he's a big
a
hitter.
couple times.
And
Yeah.
he struck him out. I was like, yes, I love this kid. So, they beat them in that series. They beat the Dodgers. So I'm so happy for that. And I'm like, damn, I've been so out of it. I've been so busy these last, oh my God, couple of years because I don't know any of the players. And so I'm like, man, I am freaking out of touch. Like I know when they win, I hear, oh, the Giants won. Yes. But to actually sit down, and I actually sat down and watched the game. I mean, I fell asleep for a couple of innings and then I woke back up. But it was a great series. So I'm
Well,
happy
you
about
always hear when we beat the Dodgers.
that.
You can
Yeah.
you can lose 10 games in a row, but you win one game against the Dodgers, and hey,
It's a big deal.
that's
I
getting it
don't know
done.
if you know, it's a big deal. It's a big deal. So yeah, that happened. They finished the series off yesterday. I believe it was 9-4. Um,
Not a
nine to
lot of
four.
good pitching in this. Yesterday was good, was
Yeah,
the exception, but
yeah,
man, some of those scores like 14-9, and like the softball scores, people were
yeah.
hitting the ball.
It was crazy. Also in our sports world, WWE last Friday on SmackDown, Jacob Fatu made his debut. Um,
Samoan werewolf.
Yes, he made his debut. And so I'm back to watching wrestling just for Jacob. And, I mean, the whole, like
The
everybody,
whole bloodline, but we got
the
a new member.
whole
New
blood,
player has entered the game.
the whole, so Solo Sikoa did a great job in leading the bloodline on SmackDown on Friday. But it really, because we've watched Jacob when he first started in
We
the
saw
Bay
the
Area.
independent circuit in a high school
Independent circuit.
gymnasium.
and my kids have been like they're close to Jacob. Like we go to all his events, and then Mo would drop him off. Like he'd have a flight, and then Mo would drop him off at the airport, would feed him, and then drop him off at the airport with my kids. So my kids really, they're really connected to SmackDown now because of Jacob.
That same week that he debuted, that video of where we had covered him popped up in our memories from like 2017, 2018.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was looking at that going, wow, that's a minute ago.
Yeah. So I was looking for that too, but I'm so proud of him. Bay Area kid does good.
He came up different too, because a lot of the other bloodline came straight into the WWE.
Right. They came in green. You know what I mean? They came in
Jacob,
new and was learning.
Worked the independent circuit. Like he has experience in other organizations. Like he, made the rounds before he made it there. A lot of the other ones didn't. Not to say they didn't put in the work, but they weren't on independent circuits for a decade.
Right.
Good for him.
So, yes, I'm so proud of him. He looks good. I think last time I seen him was last year, August. And so he has lost a lot of weight from last year. He looks good. He looks fit. So,
he's bringing a new angle for the bloodline. He's a big guy, but he's a high flyer. So there's going to be there's a whole new angle.
Yeah. And he's really good. Like he's always, he's a big kid jumping off the ropes. He's very active. Like he's really good. So I'm happy to see him finally in WWE.
Different style than the rest of the bloodline. Rest of the bloodline, big power wrestlers, power slams, those kind of things. Jacob can do that, but he can also go off the top rope. He can do a lot of different things, and he showed that in his debut. He showed the new twists.
He did, I was so proud of him. So we're looking forward to catching WWE when they come to the Bay Area, whenever they come to the Bay Area. I don't know when that is, but
he's going to be more expensive to see the next time he comes to the Bay Area.
Yeah. Well worth the money. And then, on that same note, the family lost their uncle Sika on Hawaii, one half of the Samoan wild Samoans. So that was sad. Who is Joe Sika, Roman Reigns' father, passed away this week. So condolences to the Hawaii family, and prayers and all that. So yeah. That was my week. Why did I get everything? Yeah. I'm like, I ain't got nothing to talk about. How was your week?
Still recovering from the surgery. So a lot of falling asleep on the couch. 2 different movies I went to go see. I went to go see The Bike Riders. And then I went to go see the Kevin Costner Western Heritage, or whatever the name of it is. Both of them fell asleep in the theater. And I didn't finish either movie. Wow. I ended up heading home and going to sleep, but I'm feeling better. So I'm really focused on just getting my health back and getting back into the swing of things. Going to the event for Malo's event, I slept the entire day the next day.
Good.
That was a little much, but I'm glad I did it.
You do too much, so.
Oh, coming from you, that doesn't hit very well, because you do too much.
We have family events. So I'll be telling them what you did last Friday. But so we have, we have community announcements, and then we'll go into the data that we have, and then our interview with Neo Veva. To really close out Pride Week, and also our Stop the Hate campaign. So we can get into that if you'd like. You want to start?
You want to do community announcements?
Yes, we can do community announcements.
All right. What are we doing first? We're doing this summer, Samoan Solutions has a number of youth workshops and a 2 to 5 week program happening at Le Maota. Programs are focused on equipping our youth with tools for college and career readiness, career pathway skill development, and mental health support. One of our programs is our very own Pasifika in Focus. Great job to Petey and Chimena for what they're doing with that program. You can follow Samoan Solutions, follow Samoan Solutions, and register your youth today.
Awesome, awesome. Third annual Pacific Feast Festival is happening Saturday, July 20th and Sunday, July 21st at PayPal Park in San Jose, California. All ages are welcome from 1 to 10 p.m. Their theme this year is Peace, Love, and Unity. Get your tickets now by following Pacific Feast Festival Pack Feeds on Instagram. Saturday, of course, their headliners are Fiji and Jay King, and Sunday is Maoli. So get your tickets. Don't miss out.
Ooh, our very own Reno Anawai's, and I see his name on the headline too.
Mm-hmm.
The National Samoan Chiefs Council presents the San Francisco Samoan Flag Day celebration on August 3rd at 10 a.m. at the Presidio of San Francisco on the main parade lawn. There are a lot of ways to participate and enjoy the festivities. Scan the code on the flyer and follow them on all social media outlets.
Join all my Usos for their 9th annual Family Day Barbecue on August 17th at Gilman Park in San Francisco. Please register your entire family if you plan on attending by clicking the link in their bio. There will be free food, resources, family activities, STEM, free backpacks, so much. And you will see us there. You'll also see us at Flag Day, August 3rd.
You will see us in our Big Gotti tent, at least at the all my Usos. You'll see the giant orange tent. Can't miss us.
Can't miss us. So our data that we're going to go into, the resources, is supported in whole or in part by the funding provided by the state of California, administered by the California State Library in partnership with the California Department of Social Services and the California Commission on Asian and Pacific Islander American Affairs as part of the Stop the Hate program. To report a hate incident or hate crime and get support, go to CA versus Hate.
So let's see. We wanted to gather some data about Stop the Hate, and I think that sometimes, at least for me, and I wanted to get your opinion on this, Naki. I think sometimes when we say stop the hate or hate crime, I think people are, at least maybe it's our age, but I think that when I think of that before I got into the Stop the Hate campaign, I'm thinking burning crosses, like something like huge, probably because of our age, right? That to me is like a hate crime would be something like of that proportion. Other than that, I would think, well, is that really a hate crime? Is that, what do we do with that? So the thought process of gathering the information that Leah Faleava had gathered was just to kind of get a pulse check of the Pacific Islander community and see, how do we feel about it? How do we report it? So one of the slides we're going to have at the end is going to be what to do if you see something. And I think that, at least for me, it doesn't have to be something huge. What I'm thinking, like, the movie Mississippi Burning or something like that. So what do you think, before we get into that, do you see that in terms of a hate crime, or do you have a less of a filter for that?
When I think of Stop the Hate, I do think of discrimination, racism, every ism you can think of. I think of stereotypes. Like I said, when I think of Stop the Hate, I think of everything that's happened to me as a woman of color, growing up in the city and then living in Washington for about 5 years. I think I've learned to deal, and it's really sad that we just, like, in some instances, not now, I think, because I'm more aware of resources, and before I would just let it slide. Like, it's not worth, some things are not worth responding to, just because, and it depends. Like, if I'm with my kids, or if I'm by myself, well, actually, no, I think I respond all the time. But
well, I think that when I was younger, I would just, like, a lot of things that are considered, you should report, you should say something now. When I
Mhm.
was younger, it was like, and not it's not a the right response, but it was like, look, am I going to do something? Like, are we going to throw punches over that or
Right.
no? And if we're
Right.
not, whatever, just move. And I wouldn't consider it an instance of a hate crime. You know what I mean? It was just like write it off. Now I understand, like, it doesn't have to be those something huge to
Right.
be something of note.
Yeah.
I kind of opened my eyes.
Yeah, and I think when I was younger, I would cuss you out, and we'd have like probably end up shouting at each other. But I think now that I'm older, I literally have to. Did you just? Did you just? Did you just? Yeah, you did. Yes, and then I would have a calm discussion of why do you feel comfortable saying that? You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
why are you comfortable saying that to me? Why, like, what, why? You know, like trying to understand why you said what you said to me.
Most
So
people who say those things, once you say that, they don't want to have the conversation.
yeah,
Like, why would you be comfortable saying that to me?
why are
Oh, I
you
didn't mean anything.
comfortable?
Like, live. Why? Don't make a big deal. Like, it's
Right,
not really a conversation they want to have
right,
most of the time. Yeah.
right. And I think I've learned that um, when I say that, why do you feel comfortable in saying that out loud or
Right.
to me? And then the conversation usually stops. They'll walk away. They don't want to
You need
have
to
it.
use your inside voice. You're speaking. I can hear you. You
Yeah, I
shouldn't be
can
saying
hear you. I can hear you.
that.
So yeah, stop the hate. That's what I think of.
Yeah.
That's what I think of. So yeah.
Okay. So the first slide is just basically like who's taking this, and so you'll notice it says, "Do you identify as a Pacific Islander?" Right, and it says in there you must identify as an HPI to take the survey. Somebody, and I'm glad they did, wasn't PI but still took the survey, and
Nice.
I like that from the standpoint we can see how a non-PI sees things. Right,
Hmm.
so we're going to get this slide here in the green those are the PIs and the blues and non-PIs. And when we get through this, there's going to be some interesting contrast that I don't think we would have seen had that one person not gone ahead and taken the survey. So whoever you are, thank you for going ahead and going through with it. Okay. Do you know what a hate crime is? So that's kind of what we just had that discussion about. Like, what is a hate crime? Is it a burning cross in your front yard when you wake up in the middle of the night and somebody throws a Molotov cocktail through your window? Or can it be something less than that? Right. So, yes, you're looking at the Pacific Islanders, almost 90% of them do know what a hate crime
Right.
is. Who doesn't know what a hate crime is? The non PI,
Right.
right? The
Right.
non-PI is the one that doesn't know, and then you have 8 or 9% of the respondees said they kind of knew what it was. They're
But
not
what?
sure, but
Yeah.
that's again, I'm glad that one person is in there to show the difference between the Pacific Islanders and non-Pacific Islanders.
Yeah.
All right.
Mhm.
Um, let's see. So, a hate crime, and this is just the straight definition of it's a crime typically one involving violence that is motivated by prejudice on the basis of ethnicity, religion, sexual orientation, or similar grounds. So, one of the things that I think that, especially in light of what we just saw, the session that Malo led, right? Sexual orientation. I think there's a situation where hate crimes, if it's going to be in that definition, like that's within our own culture, right? Because there are plenty of Pacific Islanders that do not believe in recognizing different sexual orientations, right? So there can be hate crimes by definition within our own community. I think that's a point to just to be aware of, and how you talk to people, how you refer to people, and like you said, you're going to get called out by Naki and say, why are you comfortable saying that? Let's have that conversation. Let's talk. All right. So do you know what a hate crime is? Here's some of the headlines that we just kind of pulled together. And I think that when you think about, burning crosses, and I say this because of my age, right? That's what I heard was a hate crime when I was a kid. And if it wasn't that, then it was just shut up. Like, what's the big deal if you get called a name or something like that happens? These things are still happening in our society today. And you look at, in Rhode Island, Massachusetts, California man sentenced to more than 3.5 years in federal prison in campaign against Jewish and Asian Americans. I mean, there it is. And this is, these are this year.
June 2020.
These are June of this year. They are not 1965. Like this is, so it still needs to be a conversation. I don't know that it's ever not a conversation, right? Because Civil Rights Act happened. Jim Crow was eliminated. Didn't mean that this kind of stuff stopped. So just a point there. This is just June of 2024, and randomly looking out there, what do we have? All right. Have you ever been a victim of a hate crime? And so we have yes and at 20%, no at 60%, and not sure. I think the thing that really struck me is the not sure, right? And that's where kind of where I would land is, was that a hate crime when I just heard that, or when I just saw that, or when I don't know, read that or whatever? I think that a lot of the times I'm not going to be sure of whether I was a victim of a hate crime. So if you count my childhood, growing up in rural America, 100%, 100%, I can think of that. But, since then, there's things that are kind of on the line. Where would you fall, Naki, in this question? Have you ever been a victim of a hate crime?
And yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely have had yeses, and I definitely have had, did that motherfucker just
little self-reflection.
Yeah. So yeah, I have you ever been a victim of, I can honestly say I've never not known.
Yeah, you're not the not sure, right?
I'm not. Yeah. No. Well, I mean, yes, I've had that, but when I did that motherfucker just, I know, you know what I
Right.
mean?
If I'm
just
asking
questioning myself.
Yeah. A lot of times I question myself of like, am I just being too sensitive? Like, why am I thinking that? Like, oh, I don't want to be, that person that makes a mountain out of a molehill, or just, is throwing up the flag at every instance. But I can definitely think of times where,
and I think when we're in a group setting, and if I'm speaking somewhere and somebody goes, oh gosh, you're so articulate.
As opposed to what?
You know what I mean? So that, I hate that when people say, oh, you're so articulate. I'm surprised, or I didn't like.
I've had that.
I've
had that said to me in a good way, where they said, yeah, you're really well spoken, right? And I can tell it's just they're just saying that. But then I've also had that time where they're, like you said, wow, you're really well spoken. Like, and it's surprise in, why are you surprised by that? But I have, and it's nuanced, right? I think that's the term of the day. Nuanced is, I can tell, like, if it feels like a backhanded comment, like, then I can feel that, as opposed to, there's been times where people have said, while you're comfortable speaking in front of people, like, you're well spoken. And I don't feel like that's even though you're brown, but then there's other times where they are, like you just said, wow, you're really articulate.
Yeah. And I think it's because they're not, like, one, they don't mean to be mean it to be a backhanded comment. I just think that they're what is it? They assume, or they're, you know what I mean? They're assumptions.
Yeah, almost an implicit bias kind of conversation.
There you go, bias.
Yeah.
There you go. Implicit bias. Exactly. That's it.
Nuanced bias. We got all kinds of terms bouncing around here. Have you ever witnessed a hate crime against a member of the NHPI community? And here we have that not sure. I think that's one of the things that really is a telling piece for me as we go through this, is I think there's people that aren't sure. Like, I see something, I don't feel right when I see it, but I don't know whether it's a hate crime or not. So yes, but the majority's no. It makes me wonder, you know what I mean?
Have you ever witnessed a hate crime against a member of the NHPI community? And really, depending on where you live, right? Like, if you live in a predominantly brown neighborhood. You know what I mean? You're not going to get that because we see it's regular to see us everywhere. And if you live in, I don't know how to, in the suburbs or whatever,
Rural. Yeah.
yeah, then you may have witnessed, you may have witnessed. I don't, I think for me, I think it, in my opinion, I think it depends on where you live.
Right.
You
Well,
know,
what people are you around, right?
yeah. If
But
if that's all you're around is the PI community, then you probably have not seen a hate crime. And then maybe you have and you just weren't sure. You know what I mean? I don't know.
I think that, but when I think if people think about the sexual orientation thing, I think that number goes up. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
that can happen within your own community. That
Mhm.
doesn't have to be some non NHPI person.
Right.
You could face that kind of bias or that discrimination within your own people.
Hmm.
All right, and I think we have this is five. I think we got two more here, so we're almost done. Are you aware of the resources available around reporting hate crimes and or support? And not surprisingly, no. I mean,
Right.
that is the majority of the
Right.
people that, well, I know there's something, I guess. Like, so
Yeah.
if you take the no's and the somewhats, they really overshadow the yeses. There's a small percent, is that like 11, 12%
Right.
are solid with yes, I know how. And the whole rest, the 88% of people either don't
Mhm.
know or aren't sure. Like they're kind of somewhat.
And that's why we're here.
That's
That's
why we're here.
why
We're
we're
here.
here. You can get support by going to CA versus hate. And there's so many resources. If you need to talk to somebody, if you need to report a crime, if you just need to talk, that you can get it there. CA versus hate. So
That's
I
what we're
love
here
that
for.
we're doing this. That's what we're here for, right?
All right. And I think this is our last one. And yes, our last slide. So there's some pieces in here that I think are important. And it may sound, what I want people to do though is to understand, like you might take a look at this. And again, it might be my age. I look at this and I go, the FBI. I'm gonna call the FBI because somebody,
Mhm.
did something but how are people going to know what's going on out here? Unless, and those instances that we had on the previous slide, those are in June. That's June of this year. And it's
Right.
just randomly four
Yesterday.
instances they're happening. This stuff does happen, right? So don't get blown away by call the FBI, right? I mean, the FBI was some mythical organization when I was a kid, like the FBI. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and
Um,
if you're not comfortable calling the FBI, we really, really want you to go to CA versus hate because
or
that's yeah,
civilrights.justice.gov. Like there are, but don't get overwhelmed about reporting. Like
right.
reporting is not a bad thing. The data's out there. And I think this is one of those things that it's like one of the things we don't talk about in the Pacific Islander community, domestic violence, right? It's underreported. It's
Mhm.
not, it's hard to tell the scope of the problem
Right.
because most of the time it goes unreported.
And
And the
we don't
only
know
time it
about
gets
it.
reported is when it's really, really bad, like somebody almost died. All
Somebody
right.
somebody died.
Somebody
Right.
does die. Then, oh, I guess
Right.
it's time to raise my hand and report the information.
Right. Right.
But, we can publish this, get this information out on our website, www.pacificabydesign.com. And we can post some of this stuff on social media. But I think most of this is just awareness. It's important for us to
Yeah.
be aware what resources are out there. Are people reporting things? And it's very, very evident that we're underreporting these things. And
Mhm.
it's hard to get resources. We just talked about Cree and all my Usos earlier in the show about how they advocated for the resources that they need. It's hard to advocate if we don't have the data to say, hey, these are our problem and we need
These are
resources
real.
for our people.
Right.
Right. We can't
Right.
be invisible any longer.
Right. So again, California State Library, all the resources that we've brought you. Um, it's part of our Stop the Hate campaign, and we really, really encourage you to go to CA versus hate, for the resources that are there. CA versus hate. There you go.
There you go. And I think that we have your conversation with Neo, right?
We have our conversation with Neil. So, again, Neil Veve, who is one of the founders for Utopia San Francisco, we sat down and spoke to him about growing up or creating Utopia SF and all the discrimination that they've had. So, this is our interview.
Is Neil from San Francisco, California, and I want to talk a bit about the United Territories of Pacific Islanders Alliance, which is an LGBTQ PI group that basically kind of started back in the 80s because of all the hate that happened around Pacific Islanders. So I grew up, there was a lot of bullying. You know, being Samoan, you really don't have any role models back in the 70s and 80s to look towards. So I was always teased and mimicked. You know, I was a little feminine in school. And being Samoan, you know, the expectation is that you're, you know, a macho guy. And so I was always either threatened to fight somebody to prove that I was Samoan and to prove that I wasn't gay. So as I grew up and all those things happened, I just got tired of it. In the 6th grade, I attempted suicide because of all the bullying. And as I started to grow, I started to empower myself to think, you know, we shouldn't have to go through life being bullied like that, especially amongst our own people. So I coordinated the first gay march in San Francisco in 1984. There was only about 13 of us. Most of us were in our 20s, and we all were subjected to a lot of bullying, even in the parade. What's that?
Was it for Pacific Islanders?
It was for Pacific Islanders. It was kind of hard to get Samoans or you know Native Hawaiians or any other Pacific Islanders to march with us because of the hate that was always put upon us. So we had Latinos march with us, African Americans who represented. We tried to represent the whole Pacific Islander group. Even marching down Market Street in 1984, there were some Samoans there, and they were, you know, throwing out hate words, but it felt really good for me and for the group because we were out there at least being a visual part and showing other Samoans who were either in the closet or other Pacific Islanders who were in the closet and afraid to come out that we can come out and be united. So the AIDS epidemic broke out in the 80s, and a lot of us kind of went back into our homes, I don't want to say closets, but it was the stigma during the 80s was really bad. So to be gay is one thing, and to be Samoan was another, and the hate was just enormous. So in 1998, one of the original members of Utopia called me up and said, hey, we should come together again now that the AIDS epidemic has died down. The stigma behind AIDS has kind of lifted. It wasn't as bad. And that's when we came together with the API Wellness Center, who paid for a retreat for us to go on and elect officers. So in 1998, I got elected as the first president of Utopia, and several other officers were elected then. And that's when our work really began. We started going to the high schools and talking to young folks about our plight of being Pacific Islanders and the hate. And that was kind of a great thing because it kind of taught these high schoolers, you know, that they should not be hating on fa'afafingis or gay people because, we are a part of the fabric in our culture. We're always mimicked, we're always made fun of. And what we were doing was trying to talk to young people to let them know we're just like them. We take care of our parents, we contribute to family obligations, we do a lot. And for them to show hate towards us was not right. And let me tell you, today there are many of the high school kids that we have talked to who are now doctors, they're professors, they're teachers at City College, at SF State. And they have kids, and they're big advocates. So ugh, I know our work wasn't in vain, you know. And when I see them, they're so respectful. And I think I even, on social media, I'll get somebody who's 15, 16 saying, "Hey, we saw a speak, that you guys did, that you facilitated, or the march," and I felt like there were people like me. So the work is never done. And then you have allies, and they become your voice. So the work from the 80s to now was not in vain. Many of those died of AIDS. Many of them died from suicide because of the stigma of being gay. But the work is what's important. And the understanding. Now I feel when I'm around my community, it's much more accepting. They smile, they come up, they talk to us, "Oh, I have a son or I have a daughter, I think that might be gay. How can I talk to them as a parent?" These are big steps. And then, we talk to them like, "Listen, the only thing that you need to do is love your child. Teach them our cultural respects, and that we are valid in our community, and that's all we want. We don't want to be made fun of. We don't want to be so. Love your children. You do not want to lose them over bullying, over self not being accepted in the community." So I really truly feel that the work that Utopia started in San Francisco has now made a very big impact. There are now chapters, independent chapters, that are doing really big things and really helping the younger generation to be more accepting of themselves, to be more powerful, to be more educated, to become doctors, lawyers, even just regular laborers, to be happy that they're out there and they're accepted. And I feel that the organization we created 20, 30 years ago played a big part in that. And I see a lot of young people, when I mention the word utopia, or, they say, "Hey, we heard of that, and we've seen the luau's." And, it's the visibility that really helps center who they are. So even the elders today are not as cynical as they were back then. Back then, it was really, really hurtful. I mean, I've known some people who attempted suicide just because of the hate that was displayed within their own family. And listen, Pacific Islanders are the biggest loving people, especially Samoans. And to have them turn against us because of our sexual orientation was hard. And, religion plays, a big role in that as well. But today I can honestly say that the impact has worked, and all the promoting of Stop the Hate is working. We just need to continue that fight and continue funding organizations that are going to help these young people thrive. And I'm just happy that I'm still around, though I have friends that are no longer here, to see the powerful work that we did back in the 70s and 80s are now being rewarded with acceptance. And that's the biggest reward of all, is to be accepted.
What I love about Utopia is that during the time you were growing up, when violence was hitting a lot of the LGBTQ community, you guys didn't come back with violence. You decided to come back and create your own group. Why was that important for you?
Why was it important? It's all about education. It's all about, we were the first organization to go into a high school, because there was a lot of Pacific Islanders in this particular high school. It was part of the San Francisco Unified School District. And normally you would have to go through red tape just to come in the doors. But because the principal understood that this was something that needed to help their students, we were volunteering to go in to teach cultural dances for free, with no agenda. It just happened to be 5 individuals, transgender women, men who were part of the LGBT community. And we went in and we not only taught them cultural dances, but we also taught them about the hate that is being displayed or perpetrated upon the LGBTQ community. And that's why when I see these high schoolers today who are now professionals, it just warms my heart because they've been educated from back then of the damage that was done to us. So it's really important that we go in and talk about it. We as individuals, as individuals who want to be a part of our community, we did it for free. There was no money. We were just happy to be there to teach these young people about their culture and also to let them know you can't grow up hating the LGBTQ community because we are a part of that fabric. The work was not in vain. It was all done, and I'm just proud of the fact when I see them, and that's what we need more of, is to be allowed to come in to tell our stories so they can understand what we've gone through. Today, I'm just full of joy to see young people thriving, being who they want to be without any questions.
Thank you so much, Neil Vevea, who is one of the founders for Utopia San Francisco. You can find him on social media, Neil Vevea. Thank you so much.
There you go, Neil Vivea.
It's
Awesome.
always cool to see him talk about the 80s and the things that they had to overcome. I mean, he didn't even talk about the AIDS epidemic, right?
Yeah.
Like, and all the stigma that went with being LGBT, being a member of the LGBTQ community back then. It was so
Mhm.
much. I would think that it seems like to me it just would been much harder, much more difficult then because the acceptance level is just you couldn't even talk about it.
Yeah, crazy, crazy. So, I'm glad that we got to talk to him. You could jump through my hoops. Glad we got to talk to him. And, he now there's resources for him. You know what I mean? Like before you just had to thug it out or create your own organization, which is a positive thing that they did, right? They totally could have went the other way, but they created an organization to support Pacifica LGBTQ community. And now, like he said, there's independent branches in different states: Alaska, Washington, Oregon, New York. So kudos to Neo and Julio and all the board back then. So yeah, that was a great interview. Thank you, Neil Veva, for that. And again, before we close out, I just want to reiterate that this resource is supported in whole or in part by funding provided by the state of California, administered by the California State Library in partnership with the California Department of Social Services and the California Commission on Asian and Pacific Islander American Affairs as part of the Stop the Hate program. To report a hate incident or hate crime or get support, go to CA versus Hate. Thank you to California State Library. We appreciate you. That be it, folks. That be it. We will be back next Thursday. Tons of stuff going on. We will be back next Thursday. Catch us every Thursday at 6 p.m. Come back to Faika with us.
Love y'all.